So one of the things that some big customers didn't like about JBoss EAP 6.1 was that it didn't have like security features like fine-grained access control for the management layer and not audit logging for the management layer either. So for EAP 6.2 we implemented this, and since WildFly is the upstream of EAP, even though normally it should work that it should be upstream first and then go into EAP, we sort of put them in both at the same time. So they both have the same feature. And so I'm not going to do any of the role-based access control stuff because I'm not so familiar with it. I could knock that up on such short notice, but I can do the audit logging demo and sort of give you a quick overview of that. So basically it just means that anything that you change in the management model via any of the management interfaces like the CLI or the web interface basically gets logged to the audit log. So yeah, so if somebody messes around with your configuration, then you know who did it.
Admin is.
Yeah. And if we actually had the role-based access control stuff set up, then you have a bunch of different roles. One of these guys is like super user who can do everything. He can change the audit log stuff. And there's another role called auditor who can also change the audit log stuff. Nobody else can touch anything in this area. So that's kind of how this bit is secured, basically. So we've got WildFly started. So in standalone XML, we have a section called audit log. Is it big enough for you see? So we have a formatter. You can have as many as you like. Currently we output to JSON. This has a few more attributes you can set, like to have it all on one line and escape new lines within the actual stuff. Setting the date format that you use and so on. And then we have a set of handlers. In this default standard configuration, we just have a file handler that just logs to a file on the local file system. We also have a syslog handler. So you can log to syslog either locally or on a remote machine via the UDP, TLS, TCP, TLS with client certificate authentication to remote servers. So you don't have this stuff locally on this machine, so that seems to be secure enough for the bank guys that wanted this. So. And then we have the logger sections. This is where you actually turn on and off audit login, so it's currently not enabled. We're not logging the read-only operations, we are logging the root operations. And then we reference the handler that we have here, which references the JSON formatter. And this logs to the date directory to a file called auditlog.log. So at the moment this file won't exist because we haven't turned it on. But now if we go to the CLI, so that basically kind of shows you the same information in the management model. So we can try to now turn on, well not try, actually do it. turn it on by writing the enabled attribute to true. And then now in our data directory, there should be a auditfly.log. So now in the audit log, there's one record, this operation I just executed, turning on audit logging. So this type equals core means it came in through the native interface. There's also a JMX facade. So this would log JMX operations coming in. It's not a read-only operation, it didn't come in by boot. Version. This is the Authenticated User. So normally, if you log in via the CLI remotely, if you've got authentication turned on, you'll need to supply username and password, but there's a sort of magic and they're running on the same machine which Darren knows about. So basically supply you with a standard user using our file system locking and stuff. So that's the name of the user that we use. It came in via the native interface, the address of who did the operation, and then the actual operation that was executed. So for the audit logger thingy, we called write attribute enabled and true. And then I can just execute something else. If I just add a system property, then again that just shows up there in the log. So that's it, ready.
So, and does that capture additions to the actual management and user realms for adding and removing users?
No, the user management currently is only that we have is just currently directory properties files, so that's not through the management model. We've got various talks about how this in the future could be manageable in that place. I wouldn't anticipate that kind of thing would be hooked into auditing.
Yeah.
But for now it is just literally a direct file system.
I hope I find something.
No data source.
Data sources equals example DS. Disable, so I disable the data source.
Yeah.
And then that also shows up here. So for the whole model.
JE requires these data source. I tried to get rid of that.
Yeah, it does require it.
Yeah. Annoying.
But we did it really, I think, non-intrusive way.
Yeah.
You can remove the mapping, like the default mapping in the subsystem, and you should be fine.
You just label something else before you can use it.
No, I think you could actually be without that. If you just remove the whole part of that.
I'll try.
It should work. If it doesn't, you should fix it. Really, because that was really added, like, we had a huge discussion how to do it, and we didn't want to have anything really hard-coded and required.
So any more questions about
basically just the GMD mapping.
You know, essentially the events are capturing more or less diffs in the model. So if you're just kind of trying to, whenever you're making this updates, you're also updating the copy of the configuration file disk.
Yeah.
If you were to be watching that with some external tool, then essentially changes you can see would be matching it one for one with the audit events, more or less. So it's
so it's only log stuff that actually comes in via an operation at runtime.
Yeah, but that's exactly how that file changes, right? So unless somebody comes in with a USB and does it on the file system. But yeah, so everything that happens in the CLI gets persisted out back to the original configuration file. So you can use that information to also, if the system gets into a state which you don't like, you can sort of, not automatically, but you can be rolling it back by reading that log and saying, oh, I see, this is where we went wrong, we disabled the core data source.
Yeah.
There's little tools in there which I was unaware of actually to take snapshots of the configuration as well, isn't there? That's quite handy.
Oh yeah.
So you can snapshot that.
It doesn't by default, I think.
I can show that quickly if I remember where it is.
I think it's just Carl snapshots.
Which is snapshot, directly and rotating.
Didn't you migrate?
I did, but it's quite a long time
I
ago.
can't remember where it is.
I can do a code search if you want.
I take snapshot.
Take snapshot, there you
Yeah.
go. Sorry.
So
Big apple pen.
now we've taken the snapshot in that long directory, and then it's a list snapshot or something. Yeah. Snapshot.
You like
And then when
I've
you
taken a snapshot when I was like, I want to keep that XML for a bit. You're not broke.
and yeah, I really can't remember what to do, but.
That's good.
But I think the idea is you take that file name, and then when you restart the server, you can say minus server config equals
You can specify
that
a
whole
specific
thing.
standard.
Yeah.
That's a complete copy of the standalone XML, right?
Yeah.
So that you can use.
And then we always have a whole full history of what's happened in the folder as well. So. There's a standalone XML history. So that has the current stuff. No. So it has all the snapshots. It all. I think I stopped and started the server now. So. So in the current folder, you have basically all the changes that happened while the server's been up and running since the last boot. And then snapshot makes it a bit more permanent, noteworthy or tagged or whatever.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Very good.